Welcome back. This is bed number 21. This bed has not been weeded yet this year. At least I don't think I did, but we're going to get to it. I've got some thistle in here. So thistle goes into my bucket. I don't compost my thistle. If I had a municipality that would compost it and get the high heats that they need to kill the weed seed, I would do that, but we don't have municipal composting here. At least not that I know of. Maybe I'll do some research and see if there's a place I can drop off my thistles. Trying to get this next thistle out of the ground. I got the top off of it. I don't have the roots. I am going to be planting savory in this bed. Savory is, from what I understand, part of the mint family, so it is going to want to spread. So I definitely want to get it into its own little bed. I had been wanting to grow savory for a while, and it just wasn't on rotation. I noticed that my weeds are always the strongest around the edges, but that's also where I have the most leverage. So I just put my shovel in and pull. It was a dandelion. Hello, my name is Joanne. I have 67 raised bed gardens in my large garden. I've been gardening for many years, and the one thing I love to do is to pull weeds. I love to see the bed cleaned out, ready for planting. My beds have numbers on them that are higher than 67, but I skip some numbers in case I do want to put more in. I have I call it a formal raised bed garden, or a vegetable garden. It's vegetables and herbs. And I made a nice little pattern with the raised beds. So to me, it's a formal vegetable garden. I've seen so many formal flower gardens and rose gardens and in my life. And I always thought, I want to do that with vegetables. This is what happens with, this is a grass plant. So it's got the root and then it's got the rhizome, and so it sends it up. And then these little shoots will shoot up too. So you want to run your fingers under the soil to feel those rhizomes or roots. These are called roots. And get them up so that they don't propagate. The one thing, or come up again, the one thing you want to do is, I garden my weeds by exhaustion. I try to exhaust, so I'm going to miss some of these roots in the ground. I want to get as much of the root and the top as I can so that I can actually keep those weeds from coming back again and again and again. So the more you put in, the more you keep on those little weeds, the better your garden will be. The other thing you want to do with your beds is mulch. Now, I'm going to tell you that to every rule, there's an exception. I just took the mulch off of my lavender in my time because after I thought about it for a little while, I remembered that those are crops that like drier soil conditions. So the mulch will actually keep the soil moist, and I don't want to do that with them. I don't want to have problems with those plants. They like the dry. They'll take the dry soil. There's a little bit of mulch around the edge. Hi, Mommy. I'm not going to hurt you. Come on. You're okay. You're all right. I'm going to put you over here, though. If you see a spider with a white pack that it's carrying around, that is a mama and her babies. So you want to let them go. You don't want to harm them. This is hollyhock, but hollyhock's in the bed behind me. It reseeds every year. So to get back to the spider. So you don't want to harm them. You want to try to move them or let them go hide again. Sometimes if I'm in a garden bed, I will kind of dig a little bit of a hole and put some sticks on them for a while so that they can calm down. I am afraid of spiders. Yes, I am. But not deathly afraid of them. I don't scream. Well, unless they're on me, then you might hear me scream like a little girl. And I know what a little girl sounds like screaming because I have one that screams at spiders if they're on her. But spiders are good for your garden. They keep the pests down, the bugs down. Usually the bugs that are not beneficial, since spiders won't hurt your plants. Okay, so here's a hollyhock. These are actually the hardest weed for me to pull in the garden are these. I know this is a hollyhock. This is probably going to set up a beautiful shoot. It's going to be a beautiful plant, but I don't want it here. And actually, maybe I will leave it here because if it's competing with savory, maybe it'll be all right. But I got to at least clean around it. Maybe I'll just leave one of the strongest hollyhock here. But volunteer plants, especially plants that I like, are the hardest to pull because you like them. Tomatoes, oh, absolutely hardest to pull, especially as the season goes on, and getting rid of them is, yeah, you know what, little hollyhock, and maybe your little friend here, maybe I'll leave you because I really do like you. The one thing with hollyhocks that you have to remember, though, is, at least for me, I have to stake them. The variety that I have tends to be very tall. So here's another spider, but she's tiny, and she's carrying a little white sack. So I'll move her over. Hollyhocks for me need to be supported. So I have those old tomato cages, which is perfect for them. They never get really heavy. It's just the wind that knocks them over and makes them unruly. Okay, see, I have to, it's a volunteer. I'm hardest weeds to pull, and I just don't have the strength to pull them, I guess. Especially when I know I'm planting something that might take over. Now, I didn't know my hollyhocks were going to come back the first year I planted them. I thought once they were done, they were done. But I did take the seeds off of them at the end of the season, and I did put them in the ground. I'm always hopeful that something will overwinter as a seed, or I take time to look things up, but I don't always look everything up, which is something I recommend you doing, is looking up things before you make decisions about them. But, you know, I've been gardening so long, I don't know, I just don't always do that. I just go, oh well, and I also live by the oh well rule. So there was a nice breeze a little while ago, and it's kind of stopped. And I don't like it because it seems like the bugs are coming. They see me. So again, if I come across thistle, I'm throwing it in my bucket. That does go into the garbage. This is another, no, that's hollyhock. But I want to put the savory here, so it's going to lose. Okay. Oh, dandelion's my favorite. Pop goes the dandelion. Oh, just look at the roots on that one. Pop goes the dandelion. So this one has a lot of these weeds that have the roots that are attached together. I think what I'm going to start doing is IDing these weeds so I can tell you what I'm up against. Some of them I know easily. Some of them I don't. Some of them I know because they're volunteers. And the plant that's growing is right behind me, so I can clearly see it. Thistles I know only because as a kid I hated pricker bushes. We had fields behind our house, and they used to get so big and so tall. And if you were running through, you didn't want to run into a pricker bush. And you hated them if they were in the lawn. I also have Creeping Charlie, but I don't see any in this bed. Apparently, I just found out that Creeping Charlie was sold as a plant. Well, if people knew how well it grew, they'd probably want to plant more of it, but it's not very pretty. It doesn't flower as much as probably they say it does. I find that a lot. You see a plant, and or you read about a plant, and beautiful. They show you with the blooms, but they don't tell you that the blooms only last a week. Or if they do, they don't really give that. They'll just say, you know, big showy flowers, I think was a descriptor I saw in one that I knew was invasive. Great show of flowers, you know. It's like, oh yeah, but ever-bearing or... My most disappointment I had was I had a house, very little yard, tiny little yard. And I had these roses growing in the back. Oops, something's poking me. Must have missed the thistle. I had these rose bushes growing in the back. And I knew that they were some kind of, I'm not going to say primitive, maybe, what is it? When you don't cultivate it, and I'll think of the word. But it was like a wild rose. That's what it was. It was a wild rose. And they were very, very pretty. And my sister-in-law was coming over, and I said, why don't I host your baby shower at my house? Like, I'd love to be the hostess. That turned out not to be a great thing, because it turns out that those roses bloomed beautiful about a week and a half before the shower. And by the time everybody showed up, all I had was these big prickly bushes in the back. And they were almost taking over the yard because it was such a small yard. And then, oh, that wasn't the house I had the morning glories growing up through them. But so be careful when you read descriptors. Do a little bit of research before you buy a plant. I do, but not all the time. Even I make that mistake. I'll buy something and go, and then realize later, oops, it looks like I got a small anthill here. Not a problem. I was going to plant my savory in this corner, but I do want to get rid of the weeds. The ants will not be happy with me. Start to be a problem in your garden. There is a solution, and that is, I found it on another site, and I've been using it ever since, is the best organic way to get rid of your ants is other ants. What you do is you find another anthill, and you go and you take a heaping shovel of those ants and the soil around them. And you come in and you dump them on the ants that are in a place you don't want them to be. What happens is the ants fight. Biologically, they must figure out that they're too close to another anthill. And after their little fight, they move on. You usually will, and for a distance too, like they will move quite a distance. I have a couple of anthills, one over on the side of my property, and another one that's in the back that I do believe were never in my garden, and I think they are ants that have moved on. So if you want a completely organic way to get rid of ants out of your garden without using any chemicals, pesticides, or TikTok tricks, I'm going to tell you that another, and I learned that, and I'm drawing a blank. I will try to see if I can send a link up for it. It's an older video now that I learned it on, and I'm going to tell you, I had ants in a pot for the longest time. Unfortunately, they finally moved on. And the reason I had ants in a big giant pot was just so that I could get rid of ants that were in places where I didn't want them. And it's usually because the ants farm aphids. They tend to farm the aphids. They keep them safe. They let them grow on your plants. And a couple of aphids is okay. But when you get a large anthill farming aphids on your plants, it is not okay. It will do harm to your plant. They'll suck the life out of your plant because the aphids feed the ants some kind of secretion, and that's why the ants farm them. The ants want that secretion that the aphids have. So this bed is ready. I am going to come back, put my savory in, and weed the bed, or not weed the bed, and mulch the bed. So you learned a little bit about ants today, and I will try to see if I can find that original video and link it, and I found out how to do links. Put one plant there and one plant here. And it should, I think it will perennialize and take over this bed. But I've wanted to grow savory for a while. So in this bed, I've had sesame growing. I like to grow the black sesame because it's easy to get the white sesame seeds for some reason. The black are just novel for me. And here we go. Get these plants in, get this mulched, and this bed will be done. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've got comments or about the video, ooh, like you missed that thistle in the front, lady. There it is. And there's two little thistles in the front. Let me know. I'm open to suggestions. I'm still new to this. I really just record these for my kids to see me enjoying my garden outside. So thank you very much. Bye. Hey, and just like that, bed number 21 has some savory planted in it. I had started seeds for summer savory and lemon savory, and we're going to leave this hollyhock in the bed. It's nice covered up. This will keep in the soil moisture for the days that in the summer when it gets very hot, and it'll keep in the moisture. It'll keep down the weeds, although I still will get weeds. And that's it. So that's an after for this bed. Take care.